Hello, everyone. You are having an opportunity to watch this video, probably because it is your evaluation year or you're getting ready to have a formal observation. And I wanted to make sure that you understand what are the expectations. And so I'm going to share my screen just to give you a little bit more information about the professional growth system and what it looks like for you if you are in your observation year. So welcome. This presentation is for people who are in their observation year or will be formally observed in order to complete some level of requirement. And so I wanted you to first know that good teaching is nurtured in a school system that values constant feedback, analysis, refinement, and quality of teaching. So that means that teaching is very complex. It is a blessing and a curse that our profession is ever changing and evolving, and therefore the clients we serve, which is our students, they're also changing and evolving, and so we must continue to work on perfecting our craft. So here's the process if you are in your formal observation year. So as part of your formal observation year, you will be observed twice. The first one will most likely occur between October and January, and then the second one will occur typically between January and May. When you are observed, you are given a post-observation conference report on the first 4 standards. Those are the most observable standards when we come into your space or your classroom, and then we will seek input from you about standards 5 and 6. And so most teacher evaluations are for all 6 standards. There are a couple of exceptions where there's a 7th standard, but most people who are watching this video, you're going to be observed in 6 standards. And so we will report out on 6 at the very, very end, but your formals will be standards 1 through 4. So before a formal observation that is announced, you will have a pre-observation conference that will be 20 minutes with your, maybe a little bit less, but 20 minutes with the administrator that's going to observe you to make sure that we both are on the same page around what we're going to see, what the intentions are of the lesson. When we come in, we will sit down or stand up somewhere and we will script everything you're saying for 30 minutes. And so we need you to be as comfortable as possible because we're just going to be sitting there writing down what you're saying, writing down what the kids are saying, writing down what is being observed in the classroom. After that process is over, within 3 days, we would like to meet with you to have a reflection period, and that is called the post-observation conference, and that will be about 20 minutes long. I wanted to give you 2 links. The first link is the professional growth system, and that is for everyone, SEIU and MCEA, and it really shares a lot of different information around how our school system likes to observe teaching and learning. One of the things that has been helpful is if you take some time and you look through the teacher handbook, it explains the different cycles. Some people are in a tenured phase, some are in a 3-year or 5-year cycle, some are in a probationary period. If you go to page 31, it has descriptors of each standard and what the positive claims are for that standard, and then what areas might also need improvement. So each standard is broken down by the positive and then the need improvement, and you'll see what the phrasing would look like if you're on the need improvement side of that standard. Also in this handbook, it's a very long handbook, but also in this handbook is the performance criteria, which has more details about what it looks like in each of those standards. And it talks about expectations as well. So standard 1 has to do with conducting parent conferences and meeting with parents. Standard 1 also has to do with a lot of pieces of what a criteria for success is. How do you set your students up for success? And so though that handbook is very, very valuable. Also, there is a page 17, it talks about the peer assistance review program in the event you are ever entered into that program. It is a program that is meant to assist you and help you to continue to grow your craft and do what's in the best interest of students. And so it has some information about that. If you would like to take a look at either of those links, you're absolutely welcome to. So a little bit about Standard 1. Standard 1 is really about communicating expectations. When we come in and we are observing you, we are looking that you are communicating these key messages. The key messages are, this is important, you can do it, I won't give up on you, and effective effort leads to achievement. Those are the things that we can write claims about. Those are some of the things that we can write claims about in Standard 1. So we're not looking for you to say, this is important, you can do it. We're looking for your teacher moves that allows students to get these messages by what you do. For example, if you are giving wait time, you are showing that you think this is important enough to give kids enough time to think before they answer. If you are using equity sticks, you're saying that you're not going to give up on them. You're giving them an opportunity to answer because you believe in their capacity. So there are different teacher moves that you do that you may not even realize that you're doing, that you're sending some of these key messages. But that is all part of Standard 1. Standard 1 has a lot of stuff. Another part of Standard 1 is you communicating to students what quality looks like and what quantity looks like. So sometimes it's not enough to say, write a paragraph and then you'll be successful. Sometimes you have to tell them how many sentences, what the quality is, how many rich vocabulary words you want them to use. Or if you're in art, you have to completely describe what the lines will look like, how many curved lines, how many straight lines. That is you sharing the standards for quality and quantity. Sometimes also in Standard 1, some teachers do a really, really good job explaining study habits and work procedures. And these are also things that are necessary for students to be successful in your classroom. Those are all part of Standard 1. Another part of Standard 1 is just business and housekeeping. Like if a kid comes in late, do they know what to do? How is it communicated to students? They come in late, how do they grab their things and just get right to business? Or is there a break in your instruction before they start getting to work? So standards for business and housekeeping is kind of the norms of the classroom that makes things run very, very smoothly. And so we will sometimes be looking for those standards as well. Another standard is for interpersonal behavior, right? So a lot of teachers are saying like turn and talk, which is, by the way, a very kind of like low level student discourse because students have to know what to do with their bodies in order to turn and talk. Like your knees should face each other, your shoulders should face each other. And so sometimes the turn and talk doesn't work that well because students haven't been taught how to be in that position in order to turn and talk. They haven't been told the sentence frame that they're using. They haven't been told how to be quiet and only listen while that other person's talking and then switch. And so what are the standards for interpersonal behavior? Like, how do we talk to each other? How do we get in a circle really, really quickly? How do we, what do we do if someone bumps us in line? Those are all interpersonal behaviors that matter in a classroom that also need to be taught and explicitly shown to students. Standard 2 is really about how you are sharing your knowledge for the content that you are about to teach. And the biggest part of Standard 2, and this is the part that means the most to me, sometimes when you're thinking about Standard 2, is framing the learning. Students have to know what they're learning and why they're learning it and what it's going to look like. Like, I know I'm only going to be with you for 45 minutes during this time, but I need you to frame this for me so that I know when my opportunities are to work in a group, or I need to know what I need to do by the end of this lesson. So when you're framing the learning, you're telling them what the objective is. You're telling them what they're going to be doing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 13 minutes, however explicit you can be. That comes in the beginning of your lesson. And sometimes throughout your lesson, you're still sharing with students all those things. Part of framing the learning can also be sharing the academic language that is important for the lesson, why it's worthwhile. And then the biggest part of framing the learning is sharing what the criteria for success is. This is something that we've talked about. What does it look like when I get an A at this performance? When I finish this piece of artwork, or I finish singing this note, How do I get an A? How do I get a P? Explicitly telling students what proficiency looks like, showing a model, having a conversation, soliciting from them what they think proficiency looks like is really, really important. And that is all part of standard 2. So there's a lot to know, right, about teaching. I started by saying, yes, it's a very, very complex. Um, because you're in evaluation year, I do want you to keep in mind that you should collect data on standards for yourself. Like if you say, so standard 3 is all about management. If you have some really good things that you do to help manage your class, you want to keep that data. If you have really important pieces of parent communication that you've shared, you want to keep that data so that we can all embed all those wonderful things that we may not necessarily see into your evaluation. Also, student feedback. Some of the most powerful things I've done is at the end of a lesson, the teachers just taking 2 minutes and asking the students what part of the lesson they enjoyed and what helped them understand the content or get to that level of proficiency that they wanted. We do need to seek input from our students, no matter how young they are, because they do have knowledge about what works for them. And sometimes we shouldn't always assume. So getting some student feedback about your lesson is really, really important. As you know, lessons have to be intentional and meaningful. We are not glorified babysitters. We are here to teach to get to the next level or thoroughly understand a standard that they will need later in life. And so we want to be intentional and meaningful with every minute that we have with students. You do want to also make sure that you are paying attention to the pacing and time limits. You want to make sure you're getting to the end of the lesson where you wrap it up in a bow. You want to make sure that in the beginning, you're framing the lesson so that students know what's happening. So those are just some things to keep in mind. We could talk on and on and on and on about all the beautiful teaching things that should happen, but I don't want to overwhelm you with all the things. But standard 1 is your commitment to students. Standard 2 is about teaching and learning. Standard 3 is about classroom management and positive climate. And standard 4 is about assessment. So are you checking in with students? Do you know how well your students are doing? Are you just teaching and you have no idea if the students are following you? So how are you making sure that your students are with you? Is all about standard 4. And what do you do if they're not? Do you pause and then re-explain? Do you sometimes push through because you know that explanation's coming? So standard 4 is really being aware of where your students are and what they need to go to the next level. Please make sure that your objectives will be able to. Students will be able to. So will be able to is a capacity building statement. And we want to build capacity by the end of that session that we're spending with students. So by the end of this, you're going to be able to do this. Even if it's something new and little, you want them to be able to do something by spending all that time with you during that session. So mastery objectives are for kids. They are kid friendly. They do need to be posted. And more importantly, they need to be shared with kids. No one can hit a target they can't see. Writing down the mastery objectives, having it present in front of you allows you to keep it in mind, allows the students to keep it in mind. They do have to be linked to a standards. We are bound to standards. We're not making up the curriculum as we go. And so they have to be linked to some standards in some way. Mastery objectives are also active, right? You can't say students will be able to understand because that's not an active thing. Like you can't tell if they understand. They're going to do something in order to show you that they understand. Maybe they're going to write, maybe they're going to identify, maybe they're going to use it, but you can't use passive verbs when you are writing mastery objectives. Okay. You will be able to tell, I will be able to tell, everyone will be able to tell how you're going to assess the student based on the standard that you wrote down. Mastery objectives have stated or implied assessment. And so that's just to help you. And then mastery objectives can include the criteria for success. Sometimes it's better if the criteria for success is just separate because it helps everyone understand it a little bit better. But they can be part of it. So criteria for success tells you what the most important attributes are for what they're going to be completing. And so it helps you judge the effectiveness of the product or the performance. The criteria for success is what counts. Your name on the paper is not necessarily what counts. What the content is counts. Now, you can say your name is on the paper for the criteria for success, but we know that's not where the grade comes from. It just helps us figure out whose paper it is, right? But knowing that they have 3 adjectives, that they have a period and a capital letter at the beginning of each sentence, knowing that their picture matches what they wrote, like all those things, or maybe they can identify something. Those are the criteria for success. That's how you get the A. That's how you get the P. That's how you get the proficiency standards. Okay, so this is the part where I explain to you how to sign up for a conference. You're going to click on either sign up with Loretta first or sign up with Devana first. In the slide deck, you're going to see who to sign up with first. And then when you sign up with us, we will send you a calendar invite to confirm. We've listed some dates that were available. Your first semester observation will be announced. So you'll know when we're coming. We'll talk about it before we get there. Your second will not be announced. Your second, we will just pop in to catch you doing the wonderful things that you're typically doing. Whoever does your second will most likely write your final evaluation. There's also a pre-observation form. The pre-observation form is the form that you complete maybe 2 or 3 days before we come in. We don't want you to do it too early because things change. And if you're absent or you get a little bit behind on your pacing, then that won't be an accurate representation of what we're going to see. So you want to do it a couple days before we meet to talk about what you're going to actually teach. And then at the bottom of that form also has the post-observation questions. So after we observe you, you're going to write down some reflection questions before we sit and talk a little bit more about it. I'm going to show you this teaching graphic. I'm not going to belabor it, but I do want you to take a look at it because it talks about some of the important things to unlock all students' potential. And it talks about relationship building. It talks about flexible groupings, differentiation, risk taking. So these are just some of the things that we try to capture when we are looking at all those standards that we're trying to figure out. I think that's it. I'm going to let you go. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming, but I wanted to set you up for success for your formal observation year or for us to come in and check out your teaching. On the next couple of slides, you're going to see who is going to do what first so that you know where to sign up. Okay, take care.